What's it like? Now that you're here, you're doing it, here's the set. What's it like?
What's it like? It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. Well, I mean, the thing is, I'm playing a 17-year-old body with a 40-year-old mind, okay? But then I had to play with my conception of 40, which was sort of older, right? You look at a 40-year-old and go, you're old, you know, but he's not. I mean, Robert Urich, I was watching him, he's a bouncy guy, you know, and so.
Hollywood just got caught protecting the man it once tried to erase. Everyone thought Keanu Reeves was the industry's last untouchable, a saint in black boots, immune to corruption, until a buried blacklist and a decade of silence started resurfacing inside studio circles this week. Insiders claim new internal memos confirm that after he refused Speed 2 for a stage role in Winnipeg, Fox executives quietly cut him off, warning other producers he'd gone rogue. The leak spread fast. Archived contracts, canceled meetings, and one chilling note dated 1997 marked non-cooperative talent. The same year his friend River Phoenix was gone, and within 2 more, Jennifer Syme and their stillborn daughter followed, while Reeves vanished from studio rosters altogether. Yet those who saw him then recall a man working without pay, buying motorcycles for crews, turning grief into legend, not exile. None of it fits the fairy tale Hollywood kept selling or the silence Reeves maintained while cashing billion-dollar box office checks. And now, with the blacklist proof floating through inboxes and fan forums, the question isn't what he survived. It's who's panicking that he finally stopped forgiving.
Was it fun to do that? I'm guessing you
much.
spent a great deal of time on the bus.
Yes, indeed, yes, indeed. Just about 6 weeks, 5
6 weeks on the bus?
On the bus.
Yeah.
Going round and round in circles, but it was cool. I mean, we would drive through the streets and smash into cars and...
Were you actually on the bus when it ran into stuff?
Yeah,
or?
we did a couple of times.
That's not a good idea, is it?
It was weird.
The silence after the blacklist leak doesn't sound like damage control. It sounds like strategy. Within hours of those internal Fox notes surfacing, 3 different producers started quietly distancing themselves from past collaborations, deleting old photos, canceling retrospectives, and rewriting credits that once featured Reeves' name. An executive assistant from one of the major studios says the instructions came verbally only, no paper trail, just a ripple of polite denials spreading through the back channels of Burbank. The official explanation, creative scheduling, conflicting projects, mutual respect, reads like it was written by committee. But people inside those circles remember 1995, when Reeves had just come off Speed and was offered what insiders now call the golden contract. He refused. He walked away to perform Hamlet in a small Winnipeg theater while studio brass watched millions evaporate. That's when one of them reportedly snapped, "He wants to play philosopher. Let him starve like one." The fallout wasn't public, not then. It moved through closed-door memos, unreturned calls, projects quietly recast. Yet those same executives now praise him as a legend, a contradiction too loud to ignore. Here's where it stops making sense. A blacklist that supposedly ended 20 years ago, still making people erase their own history tonight.
One day you decided you wanted to be that kind of person.
You know, I think it's just in my nature. You know, I had good parents. Yeah.
What follows next isn't nostalgia. It's pattern recognition. The same machinery that once froze him out is now selling him as the emblem of moral purity, and insiders are asking why. Between 1997 and 2001, Reeves' name vanished from Fox and their affiliates. But that period also overlaps with every personal catastrophe that defined him. River Phoenix gone at 23, Jennifer Syme's crash on Cahuenga, his sister's long illness. The coincidences pile like bruises that never healed. A gaffer from the Matrix set remembers seeing Reeves on location in Sydney during Syme's funeral week, barely speaking, just doing take after take like he was punishing himself. Yet that same year, he gave away Harley-Davidsons to the stunt team. A gesture everyone called generous, but which now reads more like guilt turned into ritual. People close to the actor insist that grief shaped his discipline. Others whisper that the studio exile did. Both could be true. The official narrative of humble resilience feels increasingly like a cover story written by the same system that buried the blacklist in the first place.
You know, when you start out, you just, especially whenever you start out in something, you have hopes and you have dreams. For me, it was just getting the chance to act and I knew I wanted to make movies, and I knew I wanted to go to Hollywood to be in films. You know, I think because I grew up in Canada and Toronto, those were the movies I saw. You know, and I wanted to be telling those stories and to be making those movies, and so.
The Fox archive letters, dated between 1996 and 2003, confirm an internal note logged as Reeves Project Restriction, indefinite, a bureaucratic way of saying persona non grata. Publicly, he continued working. Devil's Advocate, The Matrix, Constantine, but none under the Fox umbrella. When he finally returned for The Day the Earth Stood Still in 2008, the studio called it creative reconciliation. Insiders use a different phrase, damage reversal. They say the blacklist wasn't lifted because he apologized. It was lifted because the audience refused to forget him. Internet forums that year rediscovered the sad Keanu photo from 2010, spreading sympathy faster than marketing budgets could compete. By then, Fox's hands were tied. Punishing him again would look vindictive. Yet something about their tone has stayed brittle. Executives speaking of him with the same politeness reserved for an unpredictable witness. What's being whispered now is that the blacklist might never have ended, only rebranded. Every major success since has come from stories that look like confessions in disguise. John Wick opens with loss and vengeance. The Matrix resurrects a man inside a system that lies to him. Even Reeves admits the connection. "I love his grief," he once told The Guardian. That quote resurfaces in every retrospective, as if the industry uses his pain as a marketing device. But beneath that humility lies an unspoken defiance. The man blacklisted for rejecting a sequel turned his career into one. He built a mythology of returning from the impossible, and Hollywood, desperate for redemption icons, let him. Industry observers point to the 2019 John Wick 3 press cycle, when Reeves appeared on every major talk show without a single studio handler beside him, something almost unheard of for a franchise lead. That wasn't charm, that was control reclaimed. Yet this week's resurfaced memos threaten to expose how thin the piece really is. It isn't just history, it's a reminder that the machine never forgets disobedience.
Our next guest has made 16 motion pictures in about 8 years, including such diverse works as Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Dangerous Liaisons. His latest motion picture, Speed, opens across the country today. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Keanu Reeves. Keanu!
Now whispers spread about who leaked those files. Some blame an internal rival at Fox trying to discredit current leadership. Others suggest it came from someone closer to Reeves himself, a preemptive strike before a biography deal lands. The pattern feels deliberate: leak, silence, sympathy, resurgence. It's how this story always moves. What changes this time is the timing. The leak hits just as production wraps on John Wick 5, his largest payday yet, rumored at $15 million upfront plus back-end points. That contract alone ties half a dozen corporate interests to his image of incorruptible virtue. If the public starts viewing that virtue as defiance rather than innocence, the balance shifts. Studios need him soft, grateful, saintly. The leak makes him dangerous again. Here's the contradiction no one's explaining. Why would a man who's supposedly forgiven everyone start letting ghosts out of storage now? Meanwhile, Alexandra Grant appears in the periphery, calm, composed, untouchable, but sources say she's been quietly removing posts referencing their publishing venture, Ex-Artists Books. No statement, no denial, just digital subtraction. The timing overlaps too neatly with the blacklist chatter to ignore. People close to them describe protective moves, a way to shield business from backlash. Reeves' publicist stays silent, as usual. The only sound is that of other celebrities tiptoeing into the narrative. Sandra Bullock reposting an old Speed photo with no caption, Lawrence Fishburne liking then, unliking fan compilations within hours. These aren't random clicks. They're signals. Everyone's reading the same memos. Everyone's calculating distance. It's a rerun of the same fear that ruled him out of projects decades ago. Only this time, the spotlight is global and the fans are watching in real time.
Well, first of all, I would like to ask you, because you're such a famous actor, how do you do to manage the ego?
For me, I just, I know I'm a pretty simple guy. Ever since I was a young kid, I wanted to act. I started professional acting when I was 15. I've been really lucky to have the chance to have a career.
Here's where the story starts to bend. The more the industry denies the blacklist, the more it confirms its reach. A mid-level executive at another major studio tells us that in 2013, Reeves was quietly removed from an early shortlist for 47 Ronin 2, replaced before contracts were drafted. The reason on the internal note, historical hesitation. That phrase now circulates among insiders like a code word for actors who refuse system compliance. Reeves is the template, the one who got away, and therefore the one they still study. Yet his endurance turned into an infection the machine couldn't stop. Fans keep framing him as a moral compass, which makes every corporate maneuver look like manipulation. The blacklist leak, whether planted or not, reopens that wound. And the more people dig, the more it looks less like a corporate penalty and more like a control experiment gone wrong. What emerges now is not a scandal in isolation, but a pattern of punishment disguised as professionalism. The 1997 memo, the missing credits, the sudden cancellations this week, all pieces of the same architecture that built Hollywood's myth of obedience. Reeves simply refused to play the part. But what insiders fear most isn't that he'll retaliate. It's that he doesn't need to. Every film he makes, every quiet gesture exposes how unnecessary their control really is. That's the unspoken danger running through this leak. It's not about a blacklist being rediscovered. It's about a power structure realizing its oldest trick has stopped working. And if that's true, then this story isn't finished. It's only beginning to turn against the people who thought it was buried.
I know you turned 50 last month, and happy birthday, but it's hard to believe looking at you. I don't know, maybe I'm getting older or you're just very, very youthful, but I would never guess you were 50 years old if we just met.
I am 50.
Wow.
Yeah, 50, golden, half century,
Did you have a big party to celebrate this?
No.
Were you depressed about this?
No, it was kind of like shock.
The pattern starts to spread wider than Fox. Quietly, other studios begin reviewing their archives for similar non-cooperative talent notes, a phrase that suddenly looks less like administrative shorthand and more like blacklisting's new disguise. Universal denies keeping internal logs of artist behavior, but one former coordinator says an identical code was used in 2004 on 2 different actors who refused sequel deals. It's the same playbook, creative differences on paper, quiet isolation in practice. And when the leak names Reeves as the test case, the story shifts from scandal to template. Industry sources now describe a compliance network, an informal list shared among major studios in the early 2000s to flag unpredictable talent. The term unreliable appears often, vague enough to justify exclusion, specific enough to control it. Reeves's exile suddenly looks less like personal punishment and more like corporate precedent. What's worse, that same system is reportedly still active, rebranded through algorithms and risk models that categorize actors by cooperation scores. The whisper is that his name still sits at the edge of that index, tagged as a legacy risk. A man forgiven in public, flagged in private. That's not redemption. That's containment. The more people dig, the clearer the mechanism becomes. A former publicist calls it the velvet blacklist, punishment through politeness. No one bans you, they just stop remembering you exist. Reeves learned that the hard way. Now others are following the same pattern. A stunt coordinator from an unnamed streaming franchise claims his payment was redirected after speaking out about unfair hours, only to later find his name dropped from the crew credits entirely. The old tactics never left, they just upgraded their PR. Meanwhile, the press keeps polishing the same myth. Keanu the kind, Keanu the grateful, Keanu the exception. But that narrative is turning radioactive. Every act of generosity, the free breakfasts on Chain Reaction, the Harley-Davidsons for the Matrix team, now reads like rebellion disguised as goodwill. It's no longer about kindness. It's about reclaiming power in an industry that punishes independence. People close to him say the more they paint him as saintly, the less he trusts anyone in charge. That paradox fuels the fascination. He didn't survive Hollywood by playing along. He survived by smiling while it burned behind him.
And we're talking about a bus now, out of control, got a bomb on it.
Right.
Got to go 50 miles an hour, it explodes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know it sounds kind of silly, doesn't it?
Well,
But it's good. I mean, that's what's good about it. I mean, that's why when I opened up the cover, when I first saw the script, it said speed. And then there was a bomb on a bus, and if it went under 50, it would blow up, et cetera, and it sounded so fantastic that, I liked that. It was so completely, only in Hollywood,
And now, the loyalty cracks are showing inside the machine. Internal chatter from Fox's creative division mentions legacy containment PR, suggesting an organized plan to steer online discussion away from the blacklist leaks. Multiple PR subcontractors receive sudden requests for mood monitoring, tracking social sentiment spikes around Reeves's name. But the data makes things worse. Every attempt to neutralize the story only amplifies it. Fans interpret silence as confirmation, and the forums go feral with theory threads. One particularly persistent rumor claims that Reeves's recent John Wick contract included a private clause forbidding any reference to his Fox fallout in promotional interviews. Studio lawyers deny it, but insiders keep repeating the same phrase. Standard clause, unusual emphasis. Here's where the story tilts from scandal to paranoia. If the blacklist was meant to silence him, then the current panic proves it failed. He's become the control experiment that got loose, a reminder that the one thing Hollywood still can't script is defiance. Patterns in his career start reframing themselves as messages hidden in plain sight. The unending cycle of loss in his films, grief, love, vengeance, resurrection, stops looking like coincidence and starts reading like confession. When Reeves chose to pour his own tragedies into characters like John Wick or Neo, the industry called it method acting, insiders now call it memory work, using the roles to speak where he can't. Grief and loss never go away, he told The Guardian, and those words now echo like coded defiance. The blacklist didn't silence him. It gave him a language no executive could censor. Every time a director pushed for more emotion, he gave them truth disguised as fiction. Every performance since 1999 has been both movie and message, a career-long obituary for everyone he lost, and maybe for the industry that made him suffer for it. The audience thought they were watching entertainment. They were watching a slow public retaliation carried out one blockbuster at a time.
Let's see. The first job was a show, and I grew up in Toronto, Canada, and it was called, that was kind of...
People from Toronto are they're a little bit slower to identify themselves since Mayor Ford came around, I think. Yeah. Yeah. they keep it under their hats a little bit more.
Anyway, oops.
This week's final twist makes the tension impossible to ignore. A newly surfaced internal report from a defunct PR firm lists Reeves among cultural anomalies, public figures whose reputations increase after controversy instead of collapsing. Next to his name is a note, immune to traditional management. The timestamp is 2014, the same year John Wick resurrected his career. It's almost poetic. The studio system that once locked him out ended up proving his independence statistically, and yet the leaks keep hinting that the game isn't over. Someone inside those archives is still feeding documents, still peeling away layers of an industry built on silence. Reeves himself stays quiet, attending events with that same unshakable calm, but his absence from promotional circuits this month looks intentional, almost strategic. The internet calls it mystery. Insiders call it a warning. The man who forgave everyone might finally be done playing that role. The bigger picture forming now isn't just about one actor or one studio, it's about the machinery of obedience that Hollywood built, and the rare anomaly who refused to bow. The blacklist story exposes a fracture the system can't mend. Power depends on loyalty, but fame depends on audience love, and Reeves belongs entirely to the latter. His continued survival proves that public adoration can outlast corporate control, and that's what terrifies them. The studios can erase names from contracts, but not from myth. The man they blacklisted turned into a folk hero, and every leak, every denial, every act of erasure only sharpens that legend. Which raises a question that no one inside the system seems ready to answer. What happens when kindness becomes the weapon that breaks the power holding everything together? So now, the real tension sits in what's coming next. Will more names surface from that compliance network? Who else was quietly erased under the same code words? Did Reeves know these leaks were coming, or is someone else using his story as a smokescreen? And if the blacklist still exists under new names and cleaner paperwork, how deep does it go? And who's brave enough to admit they helped write it? Drop your thoughts, your theories, your sides in the comments below. Because whatever this is, it's not finished. Not by a long shot.